nerdiest prime.
I mean, I was watching it, but I mean, my eyes were looking at it as it was playing.
But you were sleeping? How can you be sleeping with your eyes open?
Yeah, I was just zoning in and out. Like it was just one of those. It was one of those.
Well, I was smart and I broke it down into two viewings.
Hmm.
Oh, that's wow. That's hard.
I mean,
I don't know.
I think this movie shed several years off my life.
I do wish I was dead and or blind while I was watching. While I was watching
We'll pray for death, but death never comes.
it.
I'm giving you a chance to get back in on the action on a galactic scale.
What a cute idea.
hi, and welcome to Nerdiest Prime, where we are reviewing Star Trek Section 31. It's a fantastic movie. and we're gonna review
Star
it
Trek.
and talk about our we're gonna analyze it and talk about our impressions about it. So let's start with our first impressions right away. Let's start with Namir this time.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just saying that I needed a second viewing because I think I slept through most of it the first time around. So there are parts that don't make sense to me. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know if it's because I fell asleep and I was just like, "Oh, what's going on?" When I woke up, or it just doesn't hang together or make sense at all. But obviously, it's a terrible movie. Like it's there. There's like nothing redeeming about it that I could really tell. And I'm open to be convinced, that maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think I'm pretty right about this.
Well, I know just the man to convince you that you're wrong, and it's not Alan. But you go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, you're not going to get anything from me that's going to convince you otherwise because I am 100% with you. I feel like this must be the first time too that we've reviewed something on this channel that is other than that episode of Andor that's not Star Trek, because this is not Star Trek.
That's a good point. Yeah.
This is our second time reviewing something that's not Star Trek. My God, this was an awful movie. It was a chore to get through. I did not enjoy it at all. I try really hard to come up with anything positive to say about it, because even the stuff that I might have considered clever or creative, in the past, I've just watched enough movies to know that there's so many blatant ripoffs in this movie that that's like, yeah, it's been done before and it's been done better. I mean, yeah, I feel like
Okay, that's good. That's good, Alan. It's just a first impression.
yeah, I was like, oh my God.
All right. Okay. So I enjoyed this movie.
What? Wait, hang on. I'm gonna do this.
Don't spit on your electronics. You'll just
I
ruin
know. I
stuff.
I was gonna do a spit take. I was like, wait, there's a lot of stuff around here that I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
clean
it's
up.
worth
So
money.
just
Yeah.
imagine that I did a spit take.
I'm not going to argue about it being a good movie because it's not a good movie, but I will explain what I enjoyed about the movie and why I enjoyed it. I mean, I guess it reminds me. I feel like the writing, they were having a good time, and so I was having a good time, and it wasn't taking itself seriously, so I was having a good time. And also, it reminded me a lot of when Alan and I watch all Steven Seagal movies. Not like Under Siege, but if you watch I'm trying to remember the names of what's the one with the one and the other one.
Wow,
Fire
I
Down
have no
Below,
idea.
Fire Down Below, like Fire Down Below. It's like watching Fire Down Below. It's a good time.
Is that a movie about STDs?
Steven Seagal takes on big oil and a lot of hicks. But yeah, but that was funny. It was funny and fun. This is not funny or fun.
Okay, let's talk about the plot. So the plot of the movie is that basically they put together this ragtag team to go get like basically a MacGuffin that's going to destroy the universe, and the mirror universe is going to invade the real universe and blow it up, and they basically have to stop them. And they've been like it's almost like Mission Impossible to go stop this thing. So what do we think about the plot? And let's start with Alan.
I
What
think,
plot?
yeah, I mean, I think you should explain your interpretation of the plot.
Oh my god. It was just so bad. Like the plot was so by the numbers pulled together. Like they crammed 10 episode season into one 2 hour movie, or well, it wasn't even 2 hours. What was it, 90 minutes? And it's there's no character backstory. Everybody's kind of two dimensional. They're all trying to do this like CW teenage drama, like quippy, witty, fast paced, but it's not good. It's not they didn't, like
You know
like
what?
else trendy dialogue that just falls flat. It's like in the other, like in Picard, where they try to use the F word. It's like it
but
just feels so
don't you
forced and
think
awkward. It's terrible.
it kind of felt to me as I watched the movie that everybody was aware of what this movie was. Like everybody was aware that it was supposed to be a cheesy action movie in space, and everybody was like
No,
kind
I
of
I
just.
felt
don't think so. I
It
I
think
felt
felt
they
like to
were,
embar-
me.
I felt embarrassed for this cast. I'm
yeah.
like these guys probably got this job saying, "Oh, I'm going to be in Star Trek." It's basically a built-in future money maker, because you can do conventions and you'll have action figures and royalties, and people will know your name. You'll be a household name. None of these people are going to become that. It's like they are not going to make careers out of what they just did, because I would say it was embarrassing to watch this. Like I was like, I get it that they're working actors and they take the job, and I'm like, I would do the same thing if I was them. But I would. Ugh,
Yeah, like
it's
this,
like
they
it
were
just felt
aware that
icky.
they're, yeah, they were aware that they were going to get either a paycheck or that it was a contractual obligation to be in this movie.
Okay, what do you think of the plot, Namir?
You're
Oh,
gonna have to explain the plot to me
you were
because
sleeping. I
I mean,
remember, but
I just remember a bunch of
Things.
things. One is the scene at the beginning. Then I remember there was a fight in a bar, and then they were hired to steal back this like doomsday device, and then they were on this ship, and there was a fight on a platform, and then her boyfriend is the enemy, which who didn't see that coming? And then there was like this little creature that was flying around in other things, like which I didn't get because I woke up and I was like, who's that thing flying around in other things, controlling them? It's like Men in Black, what's happening?
I
And
know,
then
right?
yeah, and then there's like an explosion at the end, and they all get together, and they're like, "Yeah, this is great. We're gonna have many more adventures after this." And you're like, "That's not gonna happen."
No, no, you're not. This is the final venture for you. This is your final frontier.
This is the final frontier of this monstrosity. And actually, that's what I
Uh,
think is a problem with this is that it is absolutely a pilot for a TV show that's never ever going to get made. So I think it was
Not a
written
good
as a pilot,
pilot.
not a good
Not a
pilot.
good one.
Yeah. So, well, benefit of the doubt. Maybe when they wrote it originally, it was good. Maybe it was a good pilot, and then they were like, let's release it as a movie. So they had to stick everything into the one movie, which it wasn't really designed to do. So in terms of the plot, there was nothing special there. It wasn't anything interesting or exciting or new or different or unpredictable. It's like Ocean's 11 in Star Trek. That's essentially the premise of the entire thing.
okay, let's talk about the premise. So the premise is essentially kind of like a lot of people compare it to Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy. So how do we feel about that? It's basically, has this been done before? I guess they it sort of makes me think of Picard. Picard does it like in season one, especially. They kind of do that, get all the ragtaggy kind of people, and we're going to go on a mission together. And it wasn't Prodigy a little bit like that. I mean, it's a very different premise, but it's they all don't they all escape out of prison, or is that just the kid at the beginning?
No, they all
Yeah,
do.
they were all, yeah, they were all escaped prisoners. But I mean, again, like Prodigy held the ideals of Star Trek. Like the kids wanted to join Starfleet because they believed in a better future and stuff, and there was hopeful themes and all that, that we come to expect from watching Star Trek. And there's just none of that in this. There's like nothing inspiring, nothing hopeful, nothing utopian. I mean, and I get what they were trying to do, but they did it so poorly that
Sorry,
it
what
just
were they
didn't
trying to
work.
do? What do you think they were trying to do?
Well, I mean, it's what they've said, in a lot of the interviews, is that this was how do we protect paradise? Like there's a price to pay and stuff that has to happen in the shadows to make sure that utopia can can exist. With the good there has to be some bad happening to make it work. And I get that, but say we saw that in D Space Nine, and it was interesting, it was intriguing. You didn't know. We had Sloan in D Space Nine coming on claiming to be Section 31 that no one had heard of. It's very shadowy, very secretive. And you didn't know if it was just Sloan himself making out that this organization exists, or did it? There was a lot of interesting ambiguity with that. And with this, it's like they're not a secret organization. They're very overt. They were very overt in Discovery about it too. Like everybody knows what Section 31 is. It's not a secret. It's not covert. It's like they're out there in the open, just blowing shit up, and it's like it's not interesting, and it kind of betrays the whole concept of it, where it was so interesting in Deep Space Nine, and here it's not interesting at all.
Well, I
It's just a
think,
mess.
yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I saw those episodes of Deep Space Nine, but I never really. I mean, I would blame Deep Space Nine for even introducing this idea, because I think if it's just Sloan and he's just making it all up, that's fine, and I think that actually works as a character thing or as a plot device, or or something
And we never
interesting.
knew in Deep Space Nine if that was the case, because we never saw anyone else other than Sloan in like the 3 episodes he was in.
Hmm.
So there was always that chance that Section 31 was just made up, and it was just one guy, which was
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, and so that I admit is interesting, but you're right. I think once you kind of make it like it's actually a thing, to me that is kind of, we're talking about something totally different. That like kind of fundamentally betrays the idea of Star Trek. The idea of Star Trek is people get past that, and we've accomplished all these things because of you know bec- because doing things um, for the right reasons, with your heart in the right place, that actually over the long term is more successful than blowing shit up, basically. So you can debate that, but that's the whole premise of the whole show. So once you introduce something like a shadowy conspiracy that's been going on for like 500 years, that actually has been keeping the Federation together, yeah, that then it becomes problematic. But but by the time I watch this movie, like I'm not thinking about any of that. I don't care. This is obviously its own thing, its own universe. And by now, Star Trek, all this new Star Trek stuff, it's kind of like its own world. They're trying to shoehorn it in. Like Discovery is supposed to be part of you know, the regular Trek, but it doesn't make any sense. Like she's Spock's sister, but nobody knows who she is. Like this kind of stuff. So, uh, yeah, okay. Were you gonna say something, Namir?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I never really understood the premise of Section 31. Didn't really make a lot of sense to me in the context of what Star Trek is supposed to be. And so I always kind of dismissed it. And I never really liked that component of Discovery when I did watch it. I was like, okay, well, whatever this is, it's like a side tangent. It's not that interesting, right? Like we've seen this type of thing before. Um, so there's nothing new being brought to the table. There's nothing unique. There's nothing aspirational, which is kind of what Star Trek should have been about. And it does the opposite, right? It's saying that, yeah, you could be morally corrupt, but that's okay, as long as like the ends justify the means, sort of thing. Everything, all the bad shit that you do up until that point doesn't really matter. And that's the opposite of everything that Star Trek stands for. So I think when Alan said that this is not Star Trek, he's absolutely right. It's not. It's not a Star Trek show. That's okay if it was just a good show, you know? If it was good television, fine, then it's just good television. But it's not, it's neither one of those things. It's not good Star Trek and it's not good TV. So like it's what's the point of it? Right?
But
Even
is it
Michelle
a
Yeoh,
but is it a
yeah, go
good
ahead.
movie? Is it a good movie?
No, it's not
No,
good. It's not
absolutely
good
not.
anything. It's not good entertainment, right? It's predictable. It's not written well. It's filmed terribly.
Oh
Special
yeah, the movie
effects
is
are like,
ugly. It's just an
yeah,
ugly, ugly movie.
yeah. The staging is crap. Like they do the thing where, my pet peeve is like when people just stand in a room and they just talk for a very long time.
There's a lot of
And
that. Yes.
that's all they're doing. And it's an action movie. It's supposed to be an action movie. And there's no action. Like they're literally just standing and planning and talking and quipping back and forth in a way that's supposed to be clever, but it's really not. And then they move on to the next thing. And it just
Okay,
kind
so
of gets boring and terrible and makes me sleepy.
sometimes I feel like something can be, and and we see this all the time. Like The Room is a good example. Things that are so bad they're good.
Hmm.
So things that are so far on this end. So for me, Discovery is unwatchable, and one of the reasons Discovery is unwatchable is it takes itself so seriously. It's going, look, oh, we're so such good people. We're so thoughtful. We're so deep. Let me explain to you how deep and thoughtful we are, and but they're not being thoughtful or deep at all, and they're pretending to be earnest, but it's kind of like a very jaded and cynical kind of view of like, oh, you think you're presenting this as if it's like um, hopeful and endearing when really it's just like a moneymaker or something like that. But this movie it goes so far onto the other side that to me it starts turning good again, where you're like, oh, it's just like a parody of everything. Like that's how I was seeing it. I mean, I was seeing it like let's go get the bad guy, ha ha ha, like and I was just really having a good time with it. Like
I
to
think
me,
that's
to
your added extra Lucas Cardona Morissette layer.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
sorry.
think
Is there a
they
high
intended
mercury
that.
content in your water? Like, what's going on up there?
Like they did not, they weren't being ironic, right? Like so bad it's so good, like The Room, that stuff works because the people involved are honest about it, right? Like they're honestly just doing their best, right? And so you're allowed to enjoy it because you're kind of on their side, right? Like Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood, honestly believed that he was making great sci-fi, right? And so you're kind of like, oh, this is so bad, it's so good, right? Something like Rocky Horror Picture Show is actually quite good, but it's like filmed terribly, but that's part of it, right? They know that that's what's happening. That's not what's happening here. Like this is just a money grab. This is a let's put Michelle Yeoh in a TV movie around Star Trek because we said we were going to do that and we have that IP and she just won an Academy Award and people are going to watch this. That's all it is. So
Yeah,
that,
I
that means
really don't think. I don't think this would have got made if she didn't win an Oscar.
no.
I think this would have went into just shelved.
Oh yeah, because everybody knew it was a bad idea.
okay, so let's talk about Michelle Yeoh. So she plays this character called Philippa Giorgio, who's the mirror universe version of the captain that was in Discovery and a mentor to Michael Burnham. But in this case, she's from the mirror universe, which means she was this awful empress. Empress? So, and it was interesting because I never watched Discovery really, at least not that season, and so I don't know anything about the character. But just the impression I got of the character from watching this movie and the little Hunger Games intro, I was going, oh man, she's like an awful, awful, unredeemable person. Like, it's like basically they're presenting her like, oh, this is a movie about Hitler and his little gang of misfits. And I mean, to be fair, we're supposed to believe that Anakin Skywalker is redeemed at the end of Return of the Jedi. He's like Darth Vader is like an awful, awful person. and then he does that. He just throws the Emperor into the thing, and suddenly he's like, he's a good guy, and he gets to be a good little space ghost, and everything's fine. And I think this is sort of the same idea as like she did apparently some awful things. She was like Adolf Hitler's space, and then she's telling him that she's like, hey, well, now we're gonna go steal a thing, ha ha. And now I'm gonna have a one chance for redemption to like destroy this thing. And I was like, nah, I don't think. First of all, I don't know if that redeems you. Second of all, why would I want to hang out with this character for 2 hours? Or I guess what I'm thinking about is why do these Star Trek writers, what are they thinking? Are they thinking that we want to like hang out and have a good time and identify with a genocidal mass murdering tyrant? Like that's so what are your thoughts?
Well,
So
first
to
of
go,
all, let me. Sorry.
See what happened when I don't say somebody's name?
Yeah, it's true. We both
no,
okay. I disagree with the Darth Vader analogy because I don't think it's the same thing. Because Darth Vader redeems himself at the end because he's able to break out of the Emperor's control. Like that's the whole premise, right? Is that the Emperor has his fingers in Darth Vader, and Vader and Anakin are sort of powerless to kind of like, yeah, there's some agency there, but the Emperor is the one pulling the strings, right? And so Darth Vader at the end kind of breaks through it because he's able to kind of see the error of his ways. Like I don't think that ever happens with Georgina or Georgiou or Georgina, Philippa,
Giorgio,
Philippa.
Philippa
Okay,
Giorgio.
yeah, Michelle Yeoh. It doesn't ever happen with Michelle Yeoh, right? Like you see her do all these terrible things. Like she kills her family at the beginning of the movie in a really terrible way. Like it's not even like, killing them in their sleep. Shh, everything's gonna be okay. You know, they get poisoned and their insides probably melt or something, like it's an awful death. And then she presumably she becomes emperor and keeps doing that type of stuff
Wait, can we
for a
can we
very
pause
long
there?
time.
I want to pause
What?
there. I don't understand. So that so these people do Hunger Games, and then they get to be instead
That
of
made
just
no sense.
It
saving the
doesn't.
district, they just get to be the emperor. Like, whoa, that
Yeah. Why are
seems
you?
what
I know.
It's
Why are
like,
you?
oh, do you
Uh,
have experience at being governing a large
a,
empire, or
a
just because
military leader? Do you have any
you can
political
kill another
experience?
teenager? It made no sense. I'm like,
oh.
this is a
Oh.
horrible way to pick a leader, even if you're
Yeah.
evil.
Oh, you took typing in high school. You're in.
Made no sense.
No, it was
Like,
yeah, it was crazy. Like just that premise aside, the whole thing is ridiculous. And as a result, you don't like her character. Even if you're supposed to, you're just kind of like, you're not able to connect with her on any level, right? It's not like any one of us has killed their entire family out of some sort of Hunger Games type scenario to become emperor of the known universe,
oh,
right?
and then enslaved your love interest
It's
and mutilated him.
Yeah, after scarring him horribly. So yeah, exactly, exactly. Like there's nothing to connect with this
Well,
character, but they don't
Well, I mean,
care.
and then you go back to Discovery too. I mean, where I know you guys might not have seen these parts, but I mean, she was eating kelpians. Like kelpians were slaves, a slave race in in the Mirror universe, and she was killing them and eating their ganglia as a delicacy. Like so,
Yeah,
she's eating sentient life forms. Executing them and then eating them. I'm like, she's completely irredeemable
yeah.
person, and I'm like, oh my lord. I'm like,
She's
why?
like, "Don't
What
worry, I'm
did?
actually a good person."
Yeah, I don't understand. And it seems like Section 31 and stuff, and it seems like the writers for New Trek have a real hard on for Philippa Georgiou, and I don't understand why they're so interested in this awful character. They seem to think that she's a fan favorite, and I don't know who it is because I haven't talked to anyone who enjoys this character other than the people like Alex Kurtzman when he's in an interview is like, oh, it's such an interesting, it's like she's very popular, and I'm like, no,
No,
I
she's
don't know what
not.
you're talking about. And it seems like Michelle Yeoh is really enjoying being a villain. Like she loves chewing the scenery in every scene she's in. Like she's having a good time, but still she's playing a character that's just people don't
well,
like.
well, my theory is this: is that it's actually part of like a trend that's not just Star Trek, and I think it's just been kind of around for the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years. And it's this idea of like creating such huge contrasts, right? Like the idea in this movie is that you have a person that needs to be redeemed, and and the thing that they by destroying the thing that they created or whatever it is, and so instead of making it a person who is flawed or a person who has you know um, like shades of gray in their personality, um, they kind of it's like, oh, let's create the most possible contrast. So they pick the most worst person they could find, and then have against the contrast of redemption. Do you see what I'm saying? And so in terms of writing, the idea is that in writing, you're like, the more contrast you have, the more in theory, the sharper your storytelling is going to be, because it's going to be very clear, like bad turns good, but at some point it becomes kind of overkill. I think that's sort of what's going on.
Yeah, because people are not extremes for the most part, right? We're nuanced. That's why none of this rings true on any level, right? Like,
Well, that's yeah, and I guess in Discovery 2, they did do some half-assed hand waving about the Terrans, like because Giorgio had came over to our universe. Like, they found some sort of genetic thing that made them predisposed to evil, for lack of a better word. And then as she was spending more of her time in the Prime universe, like it was affecting her brain or genes or something. There was some cockamamie explanation that they had that was like trying to explain why how she's becoming a better person, because being in the Prime universe is changing her biochemistry and changing her mind, and that she's becoming a better person. And then she goes through that Guardian of Forever episode in season 3 and does some redemption things. I haven't watched that one in a while. So, but then she goes through the Guardian of Forever, and that's why she ends up here. They never explain any of that in this movie either. They don't explain where she came from, why she's here. But if you watch Discovery, she went into the Guardian of Forever,
So
and
let's go through
didn't really
list of
explain where she went.
the list of characters. Because so let's talk about the characters. Who your favorite characters are? There was the guy, the sort of the team leader. I'm trying to understand. He was also from a planet that had been like he was like an augment from Earth. He was
I guess he was
Mhm.
like he was actually from the eugenics war.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he was on a sleeper ship, and so they brought in like Khan basically, and
I guess, yeah, they didn't really do a good job explaining that, but I kind of assume that's what they were talking about.
and then they had the mecha guy.
Oh my god!
Then he had the shapeshifter who couldn't make any decisions. Who was always like thinking in binary, and then he was like always like overwhelmed with all his decision making. There was the
Irish Vulcan.
who actually was just like being controlled by a miniature alien inside him.
Yeah, he had some joysticks in there. He's like, "Burp, burp, burp."
I'm
I'm Krang from the Mutant Turtles. He's
No,
basically he's basically Krang.
Lucas doesn't understand that reference.
I know he doesn't know who Krang is.
It's okay.
It's okay. He was a little brain inside a giant robot.
Yeah, he had little handles and just
Yeah, he was a villain.
yeah, it was great.
Okay, so and then there was Rachel Garrett, right?
Yeah, there was Rachel Garrett.
So, Demir, you know who Rachel Garrett is?
No idea. Who's Rachel Garrett?
Oh, Alan's gonna tell you. Don't worry.
Oh, she's captain of the Enterprise C in yesterday's Enterprise. Come on.
Oh my God, really? You know what? To be honest, I didn't even know her name. I just like
young Rachel Garrett.
Oh God.
Who chaos is her friend with benefits.
Oh God, no.
Oh my God, these lines were so bad. They're so bad.
Oh.
Like, oh my, who wrote this shit?
Well,
Jesus
and the
Christ.
timeline's a little confusing. When does this
They
take place
they
exactly?
don't explain it, and then they use a star date that makes no sense either at the beginning, because
Well,
the star
no,
date put
the
it
Stardate
before
made
like
sense. The Stardate was sort of like the first season. Yeah, it felt like sort of like the first season of. I guess it did make sense. It was the first season
it
of
doesn't,
the
because it was
original
before
series.
TOS. If
That's
you
what I mean.
somebody talked about the star dates that I watched, and yeah, like the star date that they used at the beginning didn't fall into anything that was like the Lost era, between TOS and TNG, which is supposed to be early 20
But it's around the
fourth
TOS
century.
area because era because if you look at season one of TOS, it has the four numbers and it starts with a one.
And the thing is, the only thing that places this, that gives this a thing, is Rachel Garrett's presence, and that she's like what, 20, 25, so you're thinking if she died, or the Enterprise seed was destroyed like 2344 or something, this is probably like 2320 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the only way you can figure out a timeline, is Rachel Garrett being there, because
Which means
otherwise you
that
have
it's
no
after
clue what this is.
it's after Captain Kirk, but when Picard's a baby, basically.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no, a baby. Yes, a baby.
Well, yeah,
Wait, isn't Rachel Garrett a
teenager.
character? She's a character in Star Trek Academy, isn't she?
No,
I don't
Are
know.
you
she's only
sure? I thought I
she was
remember
only
hearing she was going to be a character in that.
no, she's only in yesterday's Enterprise.
But Star Trek Academy is like the show they're doing that's going to come out.
And
Yeah, yeah.
Starfleet Academy is going to be in the 32nd century. So
I don't
Hmm.
know.
Oh, whatever. Who cares?
Did I miss anybody? Any of the characters? Who's our favorite character? Namio, who's your favorite character?
oh, you missed the Delton.
Oh, the
Who
Delta.
lasted about 5 minutes.
But she blew up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's like, ah.
I was like, what was the point of that character? They promoted her so much, and then it's like she was in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Blew a couple bubbles.
Uh,
That was it.
my favorite character. Are the end credits a character? Because that's my favorite character.
Oh man.
Alan, do you have a favorite character, Alan?
No.
Well, I have a hard time picking one
If you held a gun to my head, I guess the chameleoid guy, Quasi. He was probably the least annoying of the crew.
The only one I found really annoying was the Irish Vulcan. But I like the idea that he had a little alien inside him that controlled him with a joystick. That was fun.
Really? That seems really dumb.
I thought it was great. I don't know why you're so serious, Namir.
I would have liked it if it hadn't been a ripoff of Men in Black and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, I would have thought it was cute and funny,
I just don't
explain away why he's a weird Vulcan, and then he's actually a robot with a little tiny blob man inside, floating in a jar of
something.
Whatever.
Well, so just to get back to the storyline, like the two times that I was surprised was, so initially, first of all, I love that scene when they're fighting through the bar, but they're like out of phase and they keep going in and out of phase.
Oh, you mean where they ripped off Ant-Man and Wasp with the fight with Ghost?
Is that what that is?
Yeah,
it's totally a rip off of that.
Oh, I forgot about that movie.
I'm pretty sure they used the sound effects from Dune too, when they were like at a phase. It sounded like the same sound effect they used with the personal shield in Dune.
But the David Lynch version,
the new one.
But is it really a ripoff of Ant-Man, or was Ant-Man ripping off Star Trek from the beginning?
Well, I don't know, because Ant-Man is based on a comic book that's been around for decades, so I feel like
Star Trek's been around for decades too.
Well, if anything, they both ripped off Dune. So
I don't think Dune had like phased fights.
They had just
they had the shields that were vibrating. It was like
exactly.
That's the sound effects. Yeah.
But the only thing that bothered me about that scene is that Michelle Yeoh had these huge high heels, and it was hard to believe that she'd be able to do all that running around and kung fu with these huge high heels.
No, I believe it. She knows how to do that. She's been doing it for like 40 years.
But why do you need high heels? Like, if you're gonna be that kind of character,
It's just
Because
sexy, I
she's
guess.
Michelle Yeoh. Why does she need tight leather? Like,
To be sexy.
yeah.
I guess I'm just not a fan of high heels in general. So
Okay, well, you
and,
can keep your personal predilections out of this review, okay? The rest of us are fine with the high heels.
But yeah, I mean that villain suit even looked like Ghost from Ant-Man. It was like black instead of gray.
well, so but the thing is, so when I saw when I there was a flashback at some point, and then when I saw the flashback, I'm like, oh, okay, it's pretty obvious. Oh, and there was the mystery guy in the black suit, and I was like, okay, there's a mystery person who's the bad guy. Oh, her nemesis, quote unquote, is her ex boyfriend, basically. So
Hmm.
that's probably the guy. But then he died in the middle in another flashback. I was like, oh, who's gonna be the bad guy then? I thought, okay, I guess it's not him.
Yeah, there's only
And,
like 8 people in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, who else could it
If
possibly be?
this felt like a late TOS episode where it's like, early TOS, like they could had the budget for a lot of extras and the ship looked like it was full of people, and then by the end of the third season, it's like there's nobody in the hallways. That's what this movie felt like. It's like a big empty universe with like 8 irritating people. It's like there's like nobody else around. It's like even the bad guy, he's alone in one giant ship by himself, talking about an army that's coming that we never see. It was like no stakes in this at all that feel like
I think
that you care about.
what I was interesting is the ships were very not Star Trekky, and there was, for example, his ship, which was like a huge room with a little chair in it, and then there was the other ship with I guess it was the garbage barge, and it had exactly the same type of design as the cargo ship in Star Trek Picard, which in itself was a very boring design. It's just like a big rectangle room with
Probably reuse the set.
with two chairs
Hmm.
in the front, basically. So, but the other scene that I really liked was when they were on the planet and there was all this sabotage going on, and they were like, "One of us is the bad guy," and they were trying to figure out who was the bad guy, and then they thought it was the mecha guy that they had killed, and I was surprised. Oh, they killed one of the characters. That's surprising. And then it turned out not to be him because he had been controlled by the little miniature alien. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And that's why I was enjoying this movie. It was like twists and turns along the way. And
It really just described like two twists, one of which is completely predictable, and the other one nobody else cared about. So
I cared.
it wasn't. It's not like we were watching The Usual Suspects or something. It wasn't like, oh, every 5 minutes you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's like two in 90 minutes.
Well,
It's not. That's not worth it. That's not worth the wait.
I prefer these twists than the ones from Usual Suspects. That's for sure. I'm not a fan of Usual Suspects. I think it's a completely overrated movie, but that's a completely different thing.
I never watched it, so.
Well, you're not missing anything.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, do we want to say anything else about this movie?
I mean, I don't know. It's pretty demoralizing. It's like
Well, it's like
just
all the set pieces in this were really boring. Like that platform fight, the CGI was terrible. I was like, the CGI was just really ugly. Like the colors in this movie were just really ugly. Like, it hurt my eyes to watch this.
yeah, like
Um,
the whole show, like from
I was
top to
like,
bottom,
you know,
everything is like the opposite of what Star Trek should be. It's all about cynicism, like the reason it was made, the plot, the character motivations, all that stuff.
but
And the thing for me is you could take this and just slap it into any universe or any other show, and it would still kind of run. You know what I mean? So there's nothing about it that's actually Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that I agree. It felt somewhat generic, but that had these Star Trek elements in it, and I liked it. That had some Star Trek elements in it.
I
what?
can't, I can't think of any Star Trek
What
elements
elements?
like
Other
other
than
than
Rachel
Rachel
Garrett was there.
Garrett. Yeah, there's like they had the little Star Trek insignia. That's
Yeah,
basically it. Like, I could.
She had a phaser pistol that looked like it was from the movie era. That was about it. They couldn't even put her in a maroon uniform from that era, like just to give us a little visual nod to something we've seen before.
Okay, so what do we think about the end of the film and how do we think that Philippa Zizou
Juju.
Zizi
Juju.
that she was redeemed by the end? Do we understand how this movie was resolved, like how the plot was resolved?
I'm not sure I understand
I
what
don't
happened.
even understand what was going on. Yeah, because again, we get a hole in space, and they did something with the weapon. Did it collapse the ion storm portal? I didn't know what was going on.
I know,
There
but
was a
that
lot
was
of
the
jibber
only
jabber.
my only real complaint about the movie was it was unclear. I thought they were gonna blow themselves up, and I was like, oh, that's redeeming, I guess. I wasn't seeing that coming. And then the explosion happened or whatever, and then they were like, surprise, we're here, which is
But
kind
the
of like, well,
explosion was supposed to destroy, a quadrant or something. I don't understand how it exploded, but it didn't destroy anything. But it somehow prevented the Terran fleet from coming through. And we
Did it
never see a
close the
Terran
hole
fleet. I don't
but
know.
that's the thing. I wasn't sure if it
I'm
closed the
not
horror
sure.
or they threw it, they put it through, so it
and
blew up on the.
destroy it
But
destroyed her universe?
Yeah, I
did
think
it?
maybe.
I don't know. We didn't see anything or know anything that happened.
Oh my
There was.
god.
It
But
didn't.
more
I didn't
importantly,
understand
how
what
do
was going
they?
on.
But how do they put how do they put the bomb in the mirror universe to destroy it while beaming back? You know.
Didn't they like shoot it into space? I don't remember. Weren't they just like and then it traveled
They were
into the hole or
But
something?
flicking
I guess
around some
but
space
they were
garbage.
holding it inside the ship, and then they were like 5, 4, 3, and then the whole thing blows up, and then they're like, surprise, we're here, haha! Like they got beamed into the other ship, and I was like, oh, but what happened to the what? Oh, I see.
I
They left it on the other ship and made the other ship go through the hole. They beamed off that ship in the last 3 seconds.
Are you just making that up?
No, well, I think
Did that
I'm
actually happen? Because I don't know.
I don't
That
remember
I'm
didn't
any of
telling
make
that.
sense
you,
to me.
what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain what I think happened.
The
The
editing was
the,
horrible.
the ship was going along. They beamed out into the other ship. The other ship kept them going through the hole. It blew up on the other side,
And destroyed that mirror universe.
that mirror universe, and then they
So
were like,
she completely annihilated her universe. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, but they were all bad.
But they were bad because of her.
I'm trying to figure out, is this some sort of them trying to explain why the Terrans are the underdogs and depressed in Deep Space Nine's Mirror Universe episodes
Oh yeah, maybe.
because they got crippled by this weapon?
I'm just disappointed that Namir and Alan, you guys didn't get my True Lies reference.
Oh, what was that?
Sorry.
Yeah, but they were all bad.
Oh. Well, we should have because you really only reference like 3 movies.
Yeah.
I just can't do an Arnold accent. Yeah, but they were all bad.
You're right. You can't do an Arnold accent.
Oh, that's a good tie-in. That's a good tie-in because what's her face was in this.
Okay, well, we're not there yet. Hold on.
Oh, come on.
Okay,
What do you mean we're not
right.
there
Oh
yet?
God.
yeah. So why do we think? So what do we think of the last
Oh.
scene? I thought it was,
It was
I thought it was so dumb.
dumb.
It was,
Dumb.
it was, it was dumb because the beginning of the movie was also dumb because I was watching it and there was like that huge intro with the narration that's explaining everything and Jen was
Poorly.
like, yeah, poorly. So Jen sat down and she was like, "What, are you playing a video game?" I'm like, "I don't think I am, but it sure feels like it."
but
Because
you know
it's
but what's great about Jamie Lee Curtis? Well, for a couple of reasons. One is that she does the voice at the beginning, the voice
yeah,
of the explaining.
Which I didn't even pick up on.
But and to me that's a reference of her doing the voice in Escape from New York. So it's like, to me it's like a reference to Escape from New York.
I
And
don't
then
think so. I think it's a reference to like Mission Impossible. She's like the
I think it's a reference to the fact that she's friends with Michelle Yeoh and must have had a favor to do or something, or blackmail. It's
Well,
like you do this, or
they were both in that Everything Everywhere All at
yeah,
Once.
Yeah. So that's.
that's their.
I thought it was great. I'm like, oh, now Jamie Lee Curtis is part of the Star Trek universe. Yay!
Oh my god! But it was such a horrible part of the Star Trek universe.
I
It's
know.
like, oh man,
But
this is
the
embarrassing. I feel
but
embarrassed
is
for
she?
her.
But was she a person in a hologram, or was she like an AI hologram?
Well, she was Control, which Control is an AI advisory thing for Section 31.
Oh,
That was like the big bad in season 2 of Discovery was Control. So if she's
oh,
Control, that means she's an AI.
I didn't know
Oh,
that. That's great.
interesting. All right.
Thank you for filling us in.
But it's still like her dialogue was so awful. It's like I felt bad for her. I'm like, oh, it's like they're making you say these lines.
But I thought it was, to me, that's
you
what
deserve
made
better.
this. But that's what made this movie like the Room level of bad. So it's good. Like the ending is perfectly bad in the way that it's like, so what are we gonna do next time? What mission are we gonna do now? We have a new mission. Well, wonder what trouble we're gonna get into now. Ha ha ha! And I was just like, this is amazing.
And then they get Krang's estranged wife or whatever to come in a new Vulcan. Just it's like, oh, if we get a spinoff, it's like I can still come back because now I'm the wife of the dead joystick alien.
But was he dead? Like, because she wasn't the wife like angry that he had done that, so she was there to like. I don't understand.
I don't think anybody does.
Exact revenge.
It doesn't matter because we're never going to see any follow-up adventures.
No, never. They're not even going to do like a comic book sequel to this.
No, I was just going to say it too. I was like, they'll never even do a novel.
Novelization.
I'm predicting right now. I'm predicting right now that there's another movie coming up. There'll be another one in 2 years, and you guys are gonna be so sad, and we're gonna review it. It's gonna be awesome.
No, there's no way. Michelle Yeoh's never going to do it. She's never going to do it. She's going to be like, I want an Oscar. Why would I do this?
Paramount will never greenlight that after this backlash.
Oh, 100%. Never, ever going to happen.
It got made because she wanted to do this movie. They didn't like ask her to do it. She already wanted to do the movie.
Oh, she loves playing the character, but I say the character is so awful. Like, I don't understand why she likes it, but she does. Apparently.
I don't know. I hope she does not do it.
So, is this a ripoff or a pastiche, you would say, this movie?
Of what?
Alan, of what?
Of what? What is this a ripoff of? There's so many things ripped off. I was like, Men in Black is ripped off. Hunger Games is ripped off. Ant-Man and Wasp is ripped off. Suicide Squad is ripped off. Guardians of the Galaxy is ripped off.
Ocean's 11, Mission Impossible.
Yeah, all those are ripped off. And I mean, it's hard to say because it's so generic. Like,
Dirty Dozen. You know what this is? This is
just
Dirty
it's
Dozen.
a generic version of everything that's been done better before.
This is Dirty Dozen. But is it a ripoff or is it a pastiche? Pastiche.
I don't even know what pastiche is, but I just didn't like it.
It's a French word for collage.
A collage?
A collage of crap?
That's what a pastiche is. Like
Every time you say pastiche, I think pistachio, and I'm like, I'm hungry.
Yeah. It's like, it is a little nutty.
Yeah.
Well, Tarantino movies are pastiches, and technically so is Star Wars. Star Wars is a pastiche.
A collage? Like of genres?
Well, that's what a pastiche is. It's like a movie that takes a bunch of stuff from other movies and puts them all together and makes a new movie.
Yeah, but usually it does something fun and new with it.
Or it does it in like an interesting way, or it, does it well, or acknowledges that it's doing it when it's doing it.
Oh, so you're saying it's an homage? This whole movie was an homage.
I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's generous to call it a movie. I think that's the faulty premise here.
It's a collection of things that were caught on camera that they strung together. And,
yeah, exactly.
And put on the internet.
Yeah, it's a reason for a crew to keep working with the sets that they already have, and for actors to get paid money, and for Paramount to have new content on their website.
None of the creative people in this movie should work ever again.
All right, you heard it here, folks. So okay, let's do it. Like, you guys want to do
Folks.
your
Folk.
your ratings?
Oh boy.
Yes.
What, really?
Okay, out of 10, Alan, start with you.
Oh my god. I was like, I'm not gonna mince words. I hated it. I hated this so much, and I never want to see it again. And I would be happy if they deleted it from their server and no one else ever had to watch it either, because I really hate this movie.
All
If you can
right.
call it a movie, it's the worst movie I've ever watched. I mean, there's probably worse movies out there, but as of things that I've actually sat through, and I mean, I'm a guy who's enjoyed movies that are considered bad, like Batman and Robin, The Girl Ghostbusters. I actually enjoyed these movies. There were things I enjoyed about it. They weren't great, but I still enjoyed them. This I didn't enjoy at all, and this is probably the worst thing I've ever sat through, all the way through.
Oh, I've definitely seen worse movies than this. Okay, Namir.
Yeah, it's like I don't think I can give it a 0 because they did make it, and that's at least like a 1. They made it. They put it on a digital format. They put it on screen. We watched it. You know that deserves some credit. So I'm going to give that a 1. It's a 1. They get a 1 for that.
I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10
That's
because
a
that's how
generous
much
one.
that's how much I enjoyed it.
Oh my God, you couldn't have.
I did. I had a great time watching it. For me, it wasn't taking itself seriously. This is the thing. I felt that the writing was not taking itself seriously. There were lots of self-deprecating type of humor in it, and I think the way it was directed and the way it was acted, I felt like they weren't taking it seriously and they were just having a good time. And I was just having a good time watching what was obviously supposed to be completely ridiculous and not to be taken seriously in any kind of way. So that's how I enjoyed it, and so that's why it gets a 7 out of 10.
You are a
That's insane.
You are a lone voice in the wilderness, my friend.
I don't think you believe that 7. I don't. I think you're being provocative. I think you're saying if I say 7, those two other guys who are correct will get so upset. It's going to be amazing. That's what I think. I think you're poking the Allen.
I can't believe going back to other shows that we've reviewed and you've given like 5s or 4s or 3s or 2s of, like, we haven't watched anything worse than this. I don't think.
Yeah,
not even when we did Discovery or season 2 of Picard.
Yeah, like
I don't think we watched anything worse than this.
There's nothing redeemable about this TV movie.
This movie
are you gonna buy the Blu-ray when it comes out?
Was so good that I thought I was high when I was watching it.
Did you buy the hat? Do you have the Section 31 hat and T-shirt?
It was hard to choose what I wanted to buy, so I haven't bought anything yet. I think I'm going to get the toque, the neon green toque.
I don't even know I don't even know how to respond to that.
I don't know. I think that's a good way to probably get punched in the face in the street. It's like,
or
how
lose
could you wear that?
Or lose all respect with everyone you know. I think that's how you do that.
If I wear it ironically, it's okay.
So you just go around going, "It's ironic." No, I don't. It's ironic.
Just where in the future the things we've done instead. Let's just push the button.